Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a brand new Marvel Cinematic Universe video for this week. So with these new casting rumors for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I thought I'd throw my hat into the ring and put out the top 5 characters who I'd like to see in the movie. This is just my own personal list, and I'll try to give as good of explanations as I can in order to justify why I've chosen these characters, but I'm sure that there will be disagreements, so leave it in the comments which characters you guys like to see in a Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. So, let's get started. Number 5. So let's kick off the list with the robotic space bounty hunter himself, Death's Head. Death's Head has quite the interesting history with Marvel Comics, having been initially conceived in order to appear in the Marvel UK run of the Transformers comic. However, Marvel liked the character and the design so much, they decided to sneak him into another comic that they owned at the time in order to keep the rights to the character. The character most recently has faced off against Iron Man back in his Marvel Now run, and appeared in the Revolutionary War event, which crossed over all of Marvel's UK-based characters and UK-created characters. Death's Head definitely has a very unique design that it would be really cool to see translated into live action. And since James Gunn wanted to bring in another character, Rom Space Knight, who came from a tie-in comic and is a space-based robotic character, why not bring in one for real this time? Number 4. My number 4 spot goes to Titus of the Nova Corps. Titus himself first appeared in Sam Alexander's first solo series, and is a rogue member of the Black Helmet Novas. A lot of the reason why I want Titus to show up is because I'd like to see more diversity in the Nova Corps, who basically last time were pretty much all human or human-esque looking people. And while there have definitely been other non-humanoid members of the Nova Corps in the past, Titus has gotten the most play out of them, especially recently in alternate media, with him being a recurring character on the Guardians animated series and appearing multiple times on Ultimate Spider-Man. And while there is no direct connection between Marvel Animation and Marvel Studios, this does at least show that he is on the radar for adaptation for people working at Marvel. Titus can also be used for a lot of setup for a future movie as well, since through him and the other Black Helmet Novas they can show off sort of a prototype of them trying to gain the powers that traditionally Novas have in the comics as opposed to just being space cops to set that up for a future for another Nova character. And since he's known for going rogue anyway, you can have him be a member of the Corps in this movie, but by the end having betrayed them and become sort of a secondary villain or minor antagonistic force for the next movie to have him be a recurring character. And hey, since 2 of our protagonists are a gun-toting raccoon and a talking tree, why not have a giant white tiger man with a laser cannon for an arm? Number 3. You might call me out for cheating on this one, but since we have Yondu in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies now, my number 3 choice would be bringing in at least one of the other 3 members of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. The way the original story went was, after a series of events, the Earth started populating other planets in the solar system like Jupiter and Pluto, which led to something of a golden age of progress around the late 2000s and early 3000s. However, in the year 3007, an alien race known as the Badoon attacked Earth's colonies on Pluto, Jupiter, and Mercury, pretty much wiping them all out, as well as several other locations throughout the Milky Way galaxy. So out of this, the original Guardians of the Galaxy formed together in order to stave off the Badoon and keep them from conquering their galaxy. So basically, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, at least the original 4, consisted of Major Vance Astro, who would go on to be known as Major Victory, Charlie 27, Martin X, and Yondu, who had previously appeared in the movies, though was radically different than his original comic book counterpart. However, I feel that any of the 3 remaining original members would make really good additions, at least as side characters, or even just as cameos in the next film. Major Victory himself, at least in some form, has actually been a member of both versions of the Guardians of the Galaxy, both the alternate future version where he was a founding member, and then a version of him becoming a member of the 2008 team that the movies are based on. So it would definitely be nice to see him represented in some way in at least one of the movies in this franchise. However, I'd also like to see Charlie 27 or Martin X show up as well. They both have fairly unique designs, with the big bulky build of Charlie 27 or the more crystalline look of Martin X. and having them show up similar to Yondu would be a good way of tying in the two teams together, and because of that, the other 3 original members of the original Guardians of the Galaxy are my number 3 choice. Number 2. My number 2 spot goes to the protector of the universe himself, Quasar. And while there have been multiple people to wield the quantum bands and become Quasar, the one who I lean most towards is Wendell Vaughn, the original Quasar. And the reason for this, outside of him being the original, so I'd want to see him first, is that it's heavily leaning towards the character Kismet appearing in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And the reason that that's important is because in the alternate future of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, Kismet and Wendell Vaughn are the parents of another member of the Guardians of the Galaxy team, Starhawk. So the appearance of Vaughn and Kismet both in this movie would be another good way of bridging together the original team and the current team. Plus, the quantum bands basically give you the same powers that a Green Lantern ring does in the DC universe. So it'd actually be pretty funny if Marvel was able to get a character with Green Lantern's powers into their cinematic universe before DC got around to putting Green Lantern into their own. But even if none of the Quasars make it into this movie, I'd still like for them to set up the quantum bands for a potential future installment in the MCU. Number 1. Now, while this next one may be an obvious pick, it's really the reason why it made it to number 1. Similar to how I picked Wendell Vaughn due to his connection to the character Kismet, also known as Her, why not have him show up as well? And him in the Marvel Universe isn't a flamboyant lobster man, but is in fact the character Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a very heavily requested character for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and the MCU in general. And this is for a number of reasons. The first of which being that, with all the Infinity Stones that have shown up in the MCU, one of the 2 that hasn't yet is the Soul Stone, the Infinity Stone that is most associated with Adam Warlock. Him wearing it in his forehead similar to what Vision currently does in the MCU with the Mind Stone. So if they keep it how they have it in the comics, then the introduction of Adam Warlock would be their way of introducing the Soul Stone into the MCU for the Infinity War that'll happen later. And speaking of the Infinity War, another reason why Adam Warlock would be a good pick is because he's heavily associated with all of the Infinity events in the Marvel Universe. So introducing him would help bridge into the Infinity War later on. And the final reason being that he's a founding member of the Guardians of the Galaxy team that the current movies are based on, so it would be nice to see him with the team yet again. And those are my top 5 character choices for who I'd like to see appear in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Like I said before, leave your comments below with who you guys like to see appear in the movie. If you like what you've seen here, feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet, and we have a Patreon account that if you feel so inclined, you can donate to us to help us out. But until next time, this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.